Spoilers for all the movies on the screen that you see right now. Spoilers. Okay, let's go through this one more time. My name is Colin Moore, and for the past 4 years, I have been a huge fan of filmmakers Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. Who are Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, you might ask? Well, dear travelers, just watch the video and I'll tell you. Be patient, come on. Philip Lord and Christopher Miller are a filmmaking duo that have been working together for a very long time. They met at an animation school and eventually got jobs together at Disney Television Animation, where they were tasked to make educational shorts that were legally required by Disney to show on their channel. Of course, Lord and Miller couldn't just make an educational video. They had to put their own twist to it. They did not last long. But that did not deter Lord and Miller. Well, okay, it did. But they pushed through it like champions. They went on to work on a large number of sitcoms that nobody's ever heard of, like Caroline in the City and Zoe, Duncan, Jack, and Jane. Failure after failure, they did not stop doing what they loved, and eventually in November of 2002 they had their first big break with a show called Clone High. This show followed the exploits of a number of clones of historical figures as they traversed the terrifying climate that is high school. These clones, of course, were Abe Lincoln, who was voiced by Will Forte, who then played Abe Lincoln in 2014's The Lego Movie, which I'll get to later. Joan of Arc, played by Nicole Sullivan. Gandhi, played by Michael McDonald. JFK, played by our boy Christopher Miller himself. And Cleopatra, played by Krista Miller, who has no relation to Christopher Miller. I haven't seen this show, I've heard it's good, but this essay isn't about Clone High. This was their first big hit, if you will, and that's what got people noticing them for their creativity. And because Gandhi ended up being a problematic character, a hunger strike happened in India, and so Clone High was cancelled. After that, they had a few more failures, until finally they got jobs writing for How I Met Your Mother. They worked on that show for a few years until finally they were given the opportunity to make the movie Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And that's where this video starts. Lord and Miller directed, wrote, or produced the best movies you've never seen. I mean, okay, some of you have seen them. Actually, a lot of you probably. But even if you have, you may have watched it once and then forgot about it the next day. This duo are known for Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 1 and 2, 21 and 22 Jump Street, The Lego Movie and the second part of The Lego Movie, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. All of these movies are masterpieces, yes, even Cloudy 2, and none of them deserve to be. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller have a knack for turning nothing into something beautiful. Alright, let me explain myself. All of these movies have no right to be adapted into movies, besides cynical money-making reasons. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is a children's book with no story, characters, or even that many words. That book was basically some author liking the idea of big food and then turning it into a kid's book. 21 Jump Street was an 80s crime show starring Johnny Depp that may have been good for its time, but nowadays you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody that gives a crap about it anymore. Spider-Man has had so many reboots and incarnations that it's almost like the James Bond of superheroes. And Legos, well, they're Legos. And yet, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the movie, is a touching story about learning to be okay with not living up to other people's expectations. 21 Jump Street is a heartfelt comedy about changing with the times. Spider-Verse is a glorious superhero flick about how anyone can be a superhero. And the Lego Movie is an ingenious film about how it's okay to be different from everybody else. Each of these movies and their sequels bring a nothing concept and turn it into a beautiful story. And part of that process is Lord and Miller are masters at fleshing out seemingly one-note characters. Flint Lockwood is an inventor who's not good at inventing things. Schmidt and Janko are two loser cops who just happen to look young enough to pass for high school students. Miles Morales just wants to be like Spider-Man. Emmett Brikowski is a nobody in a sea of nobodies. After Lord and Miller have established their one-note characters, they place them in completely opposite environments. Flint used to be the joke of the town with no friends besides a monkey. Then once he creates the fur, everybody wants to be his friend, just so they can get some free ice cream. When they were in high school, Janko was the cool jock and Schmidt was the loser nerd. And now because of how the culture's changed, Janko is the loser bully and Schmidt is the cool, sensitive rock star. Miles is a kid who gets superpowers and doesn't have anyone to teach him how to use them. Then he finds 5 other people who have the same powers and mentor him. Emmett, who was so much of a nobody that his coworkers didn't even know his name, suddenly becomes the special that will save the universe. And then, because of the storytelling technique, by the end of these movies, they're fully fleshed out characters. Flint finally got the recognition he wanted so badly, but at a great cost. He had to destroy his proudest work to realize that you don't always have to live up to other people's expectations. Schmidt and Django had to grow up and do their jobs. Miles took a leap of faith and learned to be his own Spider-Man. Emmett thought he was a nobody, found out he was the somebody, and then gave it all away to save his friends and reconnect with his dad. Well, okay, that's not Emmett's dad. That's Finn's dad. Finn is the kid who imagines the entire storyline of the Lego Movie. Confused? Good. That brings me to... Lord and Miller have a knack for not only coming up with a creative idea, and then using that creative idea creatively. For example, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is about a crazy inventor making giant food fall from the sky. Lord and Miller then used the giant food as a bridge for the main characters Flint and Sam to connect.
Now, the reveal. Wow. I mean, you were okay before, but now, you're beautiful.
Then they used Flint's monkey's thought translator as a bridge for Flint and his dad to connect.
I'm proud of you, Flint. I'm amazed that someone as ordinary as me could be the father of someone as extraordinary as you.
Jump Street is very creative in the sense that it doesn't take itself very seriously.
We're reviving a canceled undercover police program from the 80s and revamping it for modern times. You see, the guys in charge of this stuff lack creativity and are completely out of ideas. So all they do now is recycle from the past and expect us all not to notice.
And staying on Jump Street for a minute, there's an early scene where Schmidt and Django can't remember the Miranda rights.
Do you even know the Miranda rights?
Yes.
Let's hear them then.
You got a lot of stuff to do.
Oh, go ahead. You going anywhere, Schmidt? We got time.
I had a thing, but I can probably push it back.
And then they pay that scene off at the end of the movie with this scene.
You peaked in high school, mother. I shot him in the. You shot me in the. Oh my God! Yes! 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 You are under arrest! Came out my the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. Do you understand these rights as they have been read to you? You. Yes! 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 You did it, man! You did it! God, it feels so good.
Spider-Verse is one of the most visually creative movies I've ever seen in my life. The entire third act feels like a comic book threw up another comic book.
Does look cool though, right?
We gotta get back up there.
Is that all you got? You're gonna body you just bumping gum, you hard-boiled turtle slapper.
And the Lego Movie uses the Lego characters as a bridge for Finn and his dad to reconnect. The last thing I want to say about Lord and Miller's creativity is that in each of their movies during the third act they have a side or minor character step up and steal the show. In Cloudy, it's Steve.
Hungry! Hungry! Gummy bears! Gummy bears! Gummy bears! Steve, hungry! Hungry!
In Jump Street, it's Tom Hansen, the role reprised by Johnny Depp.
Tom Hansen, DEA, on your knees. What the f? Now!
Doug Penhall, DEA, you're under arrest. Guns down, all of you!
In Spider-Verse, it's Spider-Ham.
What are you? Some kind of silly cartoon?
You got a problem with cartoons?
Did that feel like a cartoon?
And finally, in the Lego Movie, it's Unikitty.
Stay positive.
Tearing me apart.
Stay positive.
Come on!
Forget it! You all need to be more friendly!
If you think Unikitty is crazy in this movie, then you should see her in the sequel. Speaking of... Lord & Miller have made sequels for Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, 21 Jump Street, and the Lego Movie. As of the date this video was made, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse does not yet have a sequel, sadly. But the Lord & Miller sequels we've gotten are amazing. Oftentimes, Lord & Miller will direct the first film and then step back as producers of the sequels and let someone else take the reins. The only sequel they've directed themselves is 22 Jump Street. Some say Cloudy 2 is a bland film, but I disagree. I will concede that it's not as good as the first one, but it still has its merit. If the first one is about not living up to other people's expectations, then the sequel is about how you act when you have lived up to other people's expectations. Flint now has it all, and he starts to let his friends down because his new mentor Chester V is a bad influence. The first movie is about Flint trying to please everyone and not having friends because of his obsessions. The second movie is the other side of that spectrum, where he has pleased everyone and now it's gone to his head, so again he has no friends. This is what Lord & Miller do with their sequels. In their first film they set up a concept, and in the sequel they dissect that concept. 22 Jump Street's entire premise is about Schmidt and Janko not wanting to repeat what they do their whole lives or get stuck in a rut. Their new assignment is basically the same exact one as their first one, except at college this time instead of high school. They go through the motions until eventually they start drifting apart.
I don't know, maybe we should just investigate different people.
Did you really just say that? Did you really just say that? You want to investigate other people, that's what you want?
I don't know, maybe.
If the first movie is about Schmidt and Janko learning to work as partners, the sequel is about them learning to coexist now that they are partners. And finally, the Lego Movie 2, the second part. This, in my opinion, is one of the best sequels to a movie I have ever seen. If the first Lego Movie is about Finn at the age of 10 learning that everything is awesome, the second part is about Finn learning at the age of 15 that everything isn't awesome all the time, and he needs to learn how to handle that. Just this scene tells you everything about Finn's character arc in this movie.
Everything's not awesome.
Wait, what?
So he was right.
Everything's not cool.
I am so depressed.
Everything's not awesome.
Preach, brother. I think I finally get Radiohead.
Bro, you should check out Elliott Smith.
What's the point? There's no hope. Awesomeness was a pipe.
Guys, come on.
My spirits be at the bottom of the sea.
Keeping in mind that all these Lego characters are figments of Finn's imagination and allegories for his subconscious, we can see that he's given up hope.
You can just use to fill emotional voids with.
Stop. Everyone, okay, just
Except a small
listen.
part of it.
Everything's not awesome.
Yeah, we know. That's why we're singing about it.
But that doesn't mean that it's hopeless and bleak. How so? Everything's not awesome.
As Wildstyle sings, we can see Finn start to come to terms with the fact that everything's not awesome.
We can make things better if we stick together.
And now he needs to figure out how to be happy through the times that aren't awesome.
You and I can build it together.
Yeah, build it together.
Build it together. Together forever. This song's gonna get stuck inside your. This song's.
The characters sing the catchy song that Finn's sister Bianca always listened to that Finn hated, except now as Finn warms up to Bianca, he warms up to the song as well. Then, as Finn finally accepts that he can be happy through the hard times and he fixes his relationship with his sister,
I'm back, everybody.
My queen. My queen. What ifs? I thought I lost you.
Babe, I thought I lost
the music picks up and all these little Lego figures start happily singing about how bleak life is. But that's okay because we have each other.
Everything's not awesome. Things can be awesome all of the time. It's an unrealistic expectation. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to make everything awesome in a less idealistic kind of way.
Who knew that a movie about food weather would ever be made? Or a movie about that old Johnny Depp show? Or a Spider-Man movie about multiple Spider-Mans? Or a movie about Legos? Not only that, who knew that each and every one of them would be good? Lord & Miller have proven time and time again that they can take a nothing concept and turn it into something beautiful.